świecie, w którym wszyscy mówią o AI, a giganci technologiczni codziennie walczą ze sobą o dominację w branży, w końcu wyrasta przestrzeń, gdzie w przyjaznych i bezpiecznych warunkach każdy może nauczyć się kluczowej kompetencji przyszłości. Współpracy w formule człowiek plus sztuczna inteligencja.
Jesteśmy Campus AI i tworzymy pierwszą na świecie platformę generatywną, powstającą dzięki współpracy największej społeczności entuzjastów AI w Polsce i przy wykorzystaniu sztucznej inteligencji.
Jeżeli etyczne wdrażanie sztucznej inteligencji jest dla Ciebie ważne i chcesz rozwijać się poprzez praktykę, włącz się w budowę wirtualnej dzielnicy łączącej lokalny ekosystem innowacji i kreuj przyszłość.
Cześć, jestem chyba na żywo, ale wydaje mi się, że jestem sam. Nie wiem, ile was tam jest. Hej, Dominika, jesteś? Halo, halo. Halo, centralo. Okej, czekamy na Dominikę. Zaraz powinna być. Dobra. Słuchajcie, zaraz rozpoczniemy. Dzisiaj będziemy rozmawiać o sztucznej inteligencji w działaniach 3D i dlaczego jest to takie ważne i dlaczego jest to takie ekscytujące. Już za chwilę przedstawimy naszego gościa i to może wprowadźmy gościa.
Hey.
Okay, let's switch to English now. Yes. So our guest is Sam Munro. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it well.
Yep, no, you are. That's how you say it.
Okay. So good to have you today here. Thank you for taking your time to be part of our webinars in Campus AI. So great. Just to introduce you, Sam was. Is now a part of Volinga, which is an exciting tool in application of AI in the 3D world. And today we're going to talk about this, how you use it, why is it so exciting, why is it so fast, why does it look so good, etc. But Sam, you were part of a couple of nice films, yes? So like some small film in the desert, like Dune 1.
Yep.
Matrix Awakens, Death on the Nile, Venom 2. So can you tell us a little bit like what was your role on this film? What was your role on the Dune? You know, Dune is the at least for me is the latest film which I would go and watch again.
Well, so I started my career in visual effects, and I was working at Double Negative. And over my first few years there, we started to build out a virtual production department. And this was before the LED volume work started to appear. And so on Dune, we delivered some virtual production services live on set. And the particular sequence that I worked on is the one where Paul Atreides is in his bedroom and he stands up to hide from the hunter-seeker that's coming to spy on him. And he hides in the holographic tree. And what we did was we captured Timothée Chalamet's body, created like a collision mesh, and then used a projector to project the light of this holographic tree and where it should have, because the tree kind of cuts through his arms, we project the contact points of the light on him, so that when it came to compositing the shot later, there was already the light interaction on the human in the scene, reducing some of the need to do digital human work, and it let the director of photography and the director really quite enjoy playing with the light and playing with Timothy's position, so that they could get more of their ideas for the kind of image that they wanted to create live on set. And so this started this big long journey I've been on since, where I just intensely believe in real-time technologies as part of high-end filmmaking and
so let's sorry for interrupting. Let's explain, because I know like both of us can talk for a week about it, yes, without any problems. But let's explain what virtual production actually is, yes, because we are just moved to to AI very soon. But like, what is the definition of virtual production?
Okay, so yeah, usually in the media, what I've seen is that people talk about virtual production in terms of The Mandalorian, and so the big LED volume they did for The Mandalorian to give that lighting from the computer-generated scenes onto the actors on set. But how I like to talk about virtual production, and a lot of people who work with it do, is that it's a very big umbrella of different things that we can do that use real-time technologies as a way to assist in filmmaking and making creative decisions. So the LED volume is like a small slice of what we do in virtual production.
LED volume, let's say it, LED volume is like huge LED volume. It means like
huge, massive. Yes.
this was like 6.5 meters high in the first Mandalorian, and then I think the length I don't remember, but it was around 40 meters long, something like this at least. Yes.
I think it may have been one of the biggest at the time because other people hadn't tried shooting a film in that way yet. But yeah, it's very, very large. They're not always that large. You can actually do quite a bit with LEDs by just using small sections of them. But for this very high-end version, like I'd actually not mentioned before, I did this with Barbie as well. I didn't directly work on it too much, but Barbie actually uses a lot of LED volume work in Unreal Engine to do all of the Barbie Land scenes so that everyone's lit correctly.
Okay. So I will just add like one explanation, because the definition which I like is that I say virtual production in general is teleportation. So we just place the actor scenes in whatever environment we just imagine, yes. And if we prep correctly, we can do the teleportation, yes. So it's in general, it's like in terms of this thin line with the LED, it's like a big TV set behind the actors, like big TV set, yes. And in terms of real time, this is because not everyone who is listening to us is like so deep into film production. So real time, can you explain what does it mean real time? Yes, so because
Okay, so in a lot of high-end visual effects for feature films, when you create something like an explosion or a big robot running through a city, these are made of frames, and each frame can take hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks to render one frame. And what that means is to create one picture. And you need 24 of these pictures every second, so as you can imagine, it takes a very long time to understand what your image may actually look like from some computer-generated imagery. Where real-time technology it's leveraging graphics technology on computers that are able to render and create these images 24 times a second. This is sometimes way faster, 60 times a second, 120 times a second. So rather than waiting for days to see the result of some decisions that you've made creatively, you're able to make changes as you go, and the image that you're looking at on the computer is already the final image. So it gives creative people a much higher level of interaction and agency over the decisions that they're making.
It's like playing a computer game and filming it at the same time. More like traditional post-production where you just spend weeks and months on rendering all the frames, yes?
In a sense, yeah. Which is why in my previous job at Epic, we used Unreal Engine, which is present on thousands of published video games out there, and we took that technology and we started to teach people in the film industry how to use their skills inside of this games industry piece of software, so that we could start to merge these two worlds together so that people can have this kind of creative freedom.
Okay. And tell me, like in the scene of in Dune, just out of my curiosity, this was done real time, or was there like another post-production compositing layer? Big. So like, how big was the post-production layer on this?
There was a post-production layer on it. So the holographic tree itself, the 3D one, that's not rendered while we're filming because we don't need to see that while we're filming. we had a preview of that on the set so that the director can understand where the branches of the tree may be in the final version. But what was real time on the set were these points of light that would move across Paul's skin, or Timothy's skin, really, I should say. So that on the set, what we got in camera was what we caught in camera, which is one of the first instances I started to use the word in camera visual effects, because once you do it in camera, that is what you are left with. You have made your image, and now you have to do work after that. And so the work done after that was to get this tree back in and to start to make sure that it lined up with all of these points of lights on Paul's skin, so that when you watch the film, as an audience, we don't want you to think about the technology behind it. We want you to be immersed in the story that's being told. So rather than everyone being caught up in how did they do that, we just want you to think that Paul Atreides is really just stood inside of a holographic tree, and you don't really think much about it. It just looks how you would intend for it to look.
Okay. All right. So, like, this is exciting, but I think let's move on to the AI part, because I can ask you next questions about Matrix, etc., etc. I will end up using this time just to talk about this. Yes. And of course, let me just say one sentence in Polish. Jeśli są jakieś pytania, to jak najbardziej pytajcie na czacie. Mam nadzieję, że Janek, który jest z nami, hej Janek, dzięki wielkie, że to prowadzisz z nami, będzie nam to wszystko przekazywał, także będziemy się starali też na bieżąco odpowiadać. Okay, and let's go to the tool that we're going to talk about today. So Wolinga. And I think let's start with the first video, which is the showreel of Wolinga. So we will see results, and after we'll see. I will ask you like what this actually is.
Yeah.
To poprosimy Janek, to pierwsze wideo. All right, so what was it? A lot of pictures.
Oh, there's a lot of pictures in my line of work, yes. Okay, so essentially what you saw there was we work with a new piece of technology, a relatively new piece of technology called Radiance Fields. And I'm not going to get too much into how they work, but what's important to know is that there is a technique in computer graphics that we call photogrammetry. And in photogrammetry, you might have played with some apps on your phones or something that let you do this. But essentially, you take some pictures of an object, you feed it to a computer, and then a piece of software creates an object out of those pictures, even though you only gave it 2D images.
Object, yes.
Yeah, and up until the work that we've been doing with Radiance Fields, these didn't use neural networks. There was no artificial intelligence involved. There was just a lot of analytical maths being done. That still happens with what we're doing, but a lot of that work is lifted by what the neural network is capable of doing. So
what's the difference between the, let's say, traditional photogrammetry versus training neural network?
In traditional photogrammetry, you can't really capture a transparent or very reflective objects. So a thing like a car is actually quite hard to remake the model of a car. There's a lot of extra work you have to do to be able to capture that. And other objects that just have shiny surfaces, there are some special things you have to do to make it so that you can capture them.
Isn't it like everything has like shiny and transparent surfaces, yes?
A lot of very interesting objects tend to, yeah. This can make it kind of difficult to do that. There are very skilled people that do this for sure, but you don't get this thing that we call material definition back too easily. There's other extra work that usually has to be done. Where with a radiance field, using these same techniques of getting even something just like a phone camera and moving around for a while in a scene, recording like a minute or two or a video, we can start to capture everything in a way where when we use the neural network to train on all of these images and say, hey, remake all of these images as a 3D model that's a place and make it look like I was there, essentially. I'm saying that
just to summarize it, we have an object which is mouse, and what we do, we just capture pictures all around it, yes?
Yep.
And what happens after?
So we put those into our software, and then we have this automatic step that runs that tries to figure out where were the cameras when we took those pictures, because we need to know where that camera was. And so we automatically figure that out for people. And once you create this association of like a camera position and the image that was taken from the camera, we can feed that to the neural network, and it's able to tie all of these together to create an image. Oh, is this solution dedicated to work with Unreal Engine only? No. I will get into that very briefly now. I personally, as you might imagine, know a lot about Unreal Engines, and it's quite prevalent in the industry. So we just have a lot of good support for it at the moment, but it's not the only place that Vilinga works. We call them connector plugins. So our main work is we create a piece of software which is a neural renderer. That's the thing that renders these radiance fields. And we pipe those images and pixels into something like Unreal, but it doesn't have to be Unreal. It can be Disguise, which is another partner that has an integration with us. It can be something like Pixatope, or it can be, you can make your own if you want. So if you wanted a Unity plugin, we don't have one yet, because from my own experience in on-set LED work, I haven't really run into Unity being used, and most people I know are quite skilled and proficient with Unreal. So that's why we've targeted it, but we're not exclusive to it. We're not doing anything particularly special in Unreal. We're leveraging how good of a tool set Unreal Engine is and combining it with our rendering and neural network prowess that we're very proud of.
Okay. And guys, by the way, feel free to ask the questions in Polish. Yes, I will translate it. So, więc nie ma problemu, zadawajcie pytania po polsku i ja to przetłumaczę. Okay, so we'll answer Konrad's question in a second. Let's see the process. Yes, so let's see, Janek. Let's see the second video, and we'll just answer this question in a while. I think we have no sound, but we can talk. Yes, so like
that is okay. I'll talk over this. You can see here. This is kind of how it works. So you'll select a bunch of images, or you might have a video, and you can upload that either to a web service that we have. This then processes everything, trains the neural network, and what you get at the end is this file that we call an NVOL, which is the file that we use inside of our neural renderer to be able to render your scene, your object, your human in something like Unreal or Disguise. And so you can see here, this is now present in Unreal, and it now looks like that place. And like one of the reasons we targeted doing this is creating very photorealistic places that already exist in computer graphics is one of the hardest things that you can do, because we all know what these places look like. We're all very familiar with what things are supposed to look like. And so when something falls short in computer graphics, you get a feeling of like, oh, it's a bit fake, or it looks a bit gamey. And so this is a way for people who are making films to kind of boost their production efficiency by being able to do something like take a film set that has actually been built that they might want to do something with later, after the film set's gone, it's been taken down, because they don't exist for very long. They get damaged. Sometimes they get destroyed as part of the show being filmed. And this is a way to be able to...
Here are coming the explosions.
Yes, yeah. If once special effects gets involved and someone wants to set something on fire, that thing is gone. And so it's a way to archive these objects for people. We do this already. There are processes for it, but we're trying to make sure that you can do this really quite easily.
Okay. Do you call it scanning, or do you want to call this grabbing the pictures for neural networks something else?
I still call it it's still photo capture to me. So if anyone in the audience does do photogrammetry, everything you know about photogrammetry is the same up until the point that you process everything after camera alignment. So actually, if you're familiar with capturing objects or scenes, there is not really anything new to learn. We're just a different tool that you get to process your data with, and you get a different result. And in my opinion, you get quite a realistic result out of it.
Answering Conrad's question, so like, is there a limit on the size of what you're capturing?
Not necessarily. It's a that's a complicated question to answer because it depends on quite a few things. It depends on the kind of camera you're using, how you're shooting a place, how many images you take.
Yeah, this is
if you were talking about capturing an entire...
It depends. Yes.
It depends.
Let's give an example. Let's go on like I know this technology was not existing when you were shooting Dune 1, but or was an early stage. But let's say this kind of sets like you had on Dune. Would it be possible? How big were the sets, and would it be possible to capture them?
Dune was quite unique. Their sets were massive. They were very tall. They're very impressive.
As I suspect.
But yeah, no, it would have done great capturing those. When someone asks me how big, I start to think in mile squares. So if you want to capture London, in a sense that would be possible, but you would need enough photography to do that, and that's a lot of photography. And right now, for technical reasons, you couldn't process all of that right now, but I'll let everyone here know that in a near future, that isn't a limit that will exist. Our solution is supposed to be scalable for very, very large productions, as long as you have the means to process that kind of data.
Okay, and what does it mean big for you? Yes, so like what is the like here actually where is it? Like here, I have my 4090. Is it big?
It's big-ish. I'm talking about data centers. I'm talking about render farms. So if you have some people have hundreds of GPUs, and we're looking at ways to make sure that you're able to utilize that much hardware if you have it, and if you don't, and you use cloud services, so that there's a way that you can access that hardware in a cloud service.
What I can do with my 4090?
Oh, a lot.
Okay. So how big object I can render on my... I can train, because it's not rendering, it's training. Yes. On my...
Again, it's a difficult question to answer, because you can either have an extremely detailed human that's made up of thousands of images, or you could have a less detailed human that's only made up of tens of images, and they would both train, but the thousands of image one will take longer and look a lot better. And this is the same for really big places as well. So if I flew a drone over London, I could take very few low resolution images, and I'd be able to recreate a part of London, and from a very far view away in a computer, it will look like those pictures of London. But because we didn't get any photography close to street level, you wouldn't be able to get that close and resolve that kind of detail. So it's less related to the physical size of things, and it's more related to how much data are we trying to squeeze into this model to be able to re-represent all of this detail that was there in real life.
Can we show some examples of these models? Do you have something what you could even share now? Sorry, like I didn't prepare you for these questions.
I did. I'm going to try and use the present button on here, and hopefully it will work.
Yeah.
So let me just get Unreal unminimized. Oh, sorry, give me 1 second. There we go.
Okay, Yannick, can we see Sam's desktop, Sam's display? Can you enable it? Okay, thank you.
There we go. So let me disable a couple of things here that I am just using for my own ends. And I'll disable even more. I actually don't want you to see that just yet, but that's okay. Okay, so if anyone's ever been to Los Angeles, this is the front of Culver Studios. And this was captured from like a 30-second iPhone video, handheld, walking backwards and forwards in front of this. And
30 seconds?
Yep, it might have been a minute, but it was definitely a very short, oh, we're here anyway, so let's just take a video of it and see how good it comes out at the end. And for those that don't know too much about computer graphics, I'm just going to point out a few things that make this quite unique to work with. So you see the floor is wet and reflective, and you're getting these reflections of things in the background. You can't do that with photogrammetry without having to re-author a lot of assets in order to do that. So for being able to recreate the sense of a place, you're now able to see those effects. So if you were going to use this,
about the reflection on the concrete on the floor, yes.
Yeah. So
there are even some lights on the floor, yes.
That's something I've put there. Ignore that white line. That's a mesh. But you also get these other things like I was saying before, you can't capture transparent surfaces, where we're not only capturing this window and some of the tint of the window, you can see the lights and the objects behind, and they still exist when I move towards the security gate here. But as I was saying before, because the video was captured from over here, this is very close to what that original footage looked like, but we never got any closer. So when I start to get very close to things that we didn't take pictures of, that's why this text doesn't resolve. We can't invent data that wasn't there. Though with AI, of course, you could. Because we target high-end film and TV, we try to stay away from inventing parts of your image that didn't exist. And so nothing in our training model does that. It's all based on images that you feed it, because in film, it's super, super important that you stay close to the original intent. And so some of the neat things you can do with something like this is, as I was saying, Unreal's got a pretty robust tool set. So maybe when I shoot this for my film, I'd like that it's nighttime, but actually I want it to be a little bit foggy. And I want to put in a couple of lights to change the mood a bit. And I want to start to boost the sign up here with Culver Studios. I want to make this little security office look a bit clearer. And now what I've got is, it's only slightly modified, but I didn't have to. Usually you would have to rebuild this entire thing, and that can be quite time consuming, where aside from me placing these lights, you've kind of seen me do the whole thing right here.
How like let's compare. If you would have to just do this kind of model by hand, yes, so like just absolutely manually, you have some reference pictures and you have to model it. How many days of work would it be?
It could be weeks, depending on what level of detail you're trying to get to. There'd be lots of reviews involved. There'd be lots of iterations of this thing being made. And it's usually quite costly to do something like that. Like a full environment rebuild is it's a cost on a film budget. Yeah. Where this from like capture was a minute, training and processing was, I think, half an hour to an hour. And then at that point, you can start working with it in the way that you see me working with it. So
let's say after 2 hours, you have, instead of a month working on this, you can have it in 2 hours.
Yeah. Your abilities are a little different. Like if you manually author everything, there are some other things you can do, like maybe changing the materials of some objects might be easier, just because that's how you made things. But in my own experience, I tend to find they're not things you generally want to change too much from a real place. And if we were still going to change some of those things, it now makes more sense in VFX actually just to say, maybe we don't want these security fences anymore. So in the Gaussian splat, we will get rid of those security fences, and then we'll do traditional VFX and make our own security fences or whatever we want to put there instead. But what we're getting around is having to build this entire place where you have things like foliage and just little bits of character that make this environment feel and be recognizable for the place that it is.
Okay, so like, but now you said for the first time the name of the Gaussian splat, yes? So like, what's the difference between Gaussian splat and the neural radiance field?
I will try to keep this short. There is a very long explanation, but the very short version is radiance fields. If you imagine a radiance field is like a big bucket of cubes, and all these cubes have a bunch of values and properties associated with them. So if you imagine just a big cube made of Lego, and every Lego piece tells you how dense that Lego piece is. And then the computer has to draw a line through every single piece of Lego to learn about every piece of Lego behind it until it's decided that it's gone far enough and it's come up with a color that it's going to draw to the screen. But then it has to do this for every single pixel on the frame. So if you have a standard HD image, that's, I forget right now, but I think it's 1.5 or 2.8 million times. You have to do that multiplied by however many of these Lego cubes that I'm making you imagine. And so they render kind of in real time. But they're very intensive to do, where a Gaussian splat takes that big cube of Lego pieces filled with data that I'm telling you about, and we find ones that are very similar to each other. And so we encode these things called Gaussians. And if you don't know what a Gaussian is like, it's this thing called the distribution function. That's as far as I'm going to go on the maths bit. But essentially, you're able to generalize a bunch of data into this big oblong potato shaped kind of thing. And so this task of drawing this line through all the pieces, instead what it can do is it can make big jumps instead. And it's a lot faster because, again, we still have to trace for all of these pixels in the image, but now we're reducing how many times we have to do that. It's essentially, it is an optimization. That is the much shorter version of me saying it. So Gaussian splats render in real time at a much higher frame rate than radiance fields do.
Okay, is training faster with more images of the same place or not?
I would say no, but you generally want more images if you're trying to go for more detail. It's not necessarily the training that's affected. It's the step where we have to find those camera positions. So the more images there are, if we didn't have any tracking data for the camera to begin with, we now need to find more positions for more of these things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there a difference in capturing of a large scale and small scale object? Couple of billion.
So this more goes down to like capture photography theory. It's less to do with what we do, but essentially, if you have something like my phone here, if I'm going to capture this for a product shot, I will probably have a fixed lighting rig. I will probably put this on a turntable, and then I will just have it rotate, and I'll take lots of pictures. I'll try and keep the lighting as flat as I can so that I'm able to do more authoring later. Where something like a very large building, if I want to capture the light that day, I need to make sure I'm capturing that building at a certain time and to be finished before the sun moves too much, or I want to do it on a very overcast day, so the lighting doesn't really change and there aren't really shadows on the building. But the way that you then take images of it, depending on how big this building is, you might need to fly a drone around it. You might need to get some rig out and start taking pictures. That's a how long is a piece of string question. But there are different methods of capture for different kinds of objects, and there's lots of professionals out there that know a lot more about doing this than I do.
Sam, so like two questions. Like one question which comes to my mind, which is like always a good question. Where is this AI hidden? Yes, where is it? We upload it, and there is like a black box. What's the black box?
It's a black box. It's easier to keep as a black box. So when you upload everything, we found those camera positions, and all of these images go into the neural network that trains on them. The very short version I can give you on what's happening is this model now tries to create something three-dimensional that, when viewed from these different points of view of the images that you've taken, that there is not too much of a difference between them, because we're now creating we call them novel views, but a novel view is just if I took a picture from this view and this view, but I want to put a CG camera here, I never had an image for this view.
There was
And
like a
so,
missing image in between, yes?
yeah, and that the magic black box of the neural network is it's able to kind of fill in that part of the data, so that like in this here, we never stood here when we took the image, and you actually start to see that the further away I get from where we took images from, the more of a mess the data becomes, because there is no data from over here. So this is it just doing a best guess. But the more closer I get to the training images, you see everything starts to look correct again. But it gives us all of this latitude to move in this area. So, you know, again, generally when you're filming a film, you know where you're going to shoot from. And so for something like a reshoot, where you have rented an LED volume to do this, you could put this up on the volume. And you saw, as part of our customer sizzle reel, one of them have done this quite a few times actually, where you put it on the LED wall, and even though you're indoors in a soundstage, it looks like you're in a big industrial place that you're actually not, because it's very expensive to go to a place like that, and logistically it's very difficult to film in a place like that.
Yeah. I can almost see the guy who is just trying to get rid of you just behind this gate 1 picture, and he's already running towards you, like, don't film it. So let's say even if like in among all the people that is now listening to us, if there's someone just wants to use his phone to create this kind of image, are we able on this level to create Volinga and to use the tool?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you go to volinga.ai, make an account, and just create a video, upload it, and within a couple of hours, you'll have a result. And you can download that result. You can download our plugin. All of this is free, and put it in Unreal. The only slight difference that you'll get from what you're seeing on my screen is they'll have a big watermark in the middle. So for at the consumer end of our services, we ask that you license each of your NVOLs as you make them, just to get rid of that watermark. But it means that you're then able to make as many of these models as you like until you're at the one where you're like, I'm happy, that's the one I want to use. Then you pay for that model, you license that model, and you're able to use it how you like. But you can do pretty much all of this on your phone.
Is it like super expensive, or is it possible to for, let's say, low budget productions to use this kind of tool?
It is intended for low budget productions to be able to use this all the way up to the high end as well. We have slightly different offerings that we give different people. We'd rather talk to people directly when we're talking about the kinds of things that we can help you with. But if you're an independent or you've got a low budget film, that is part of my enormous interest in moving to this company and working on this kind of technology, because I enormously believe in low-end dramas and local TV being produced by people who have lots of very interesting stories to tell. And oftentimes all you're really missing is the kind of budget and the kind of resource you need to do these bigger ideas. And at least on one front, I'm hoping this is a kind of technology that helps people tell more interesting stories in more interesting ways.
Okay, I'm just looking at the questions here that we have, and I'll try to click on some of them. Okay, maybe I'll just I don't know how to use it. Yes, I'm trying to, but like all right, so okay, let's say we have a summer house and to 3D render some of the landscape design, how much it will cost me to get it. Yes, do we know this? I think, like, let's not talk exactly, because I think you can just go on Volinga webpage and know it. Yes, from the Volinga webpage. So just feel free.
Each asset that you want to license for yourself is €50. Our other offerings are more to do with the needs of large studios. So if you want to learn more about that, please reach out to us and talk to us.
Okay, but €50 is something which we are even if a very low budget production, it's and like we have to By the way, we're not sponsored by Volinga. Yes, we just think it's a cool tool. That's why we're talking about it. And like if you feel like this is another for me at least, that's why I like it. That's why I spend so much of my time on Neural Radiance Fields, because it's like you're saving massively time. And do you think we can say that we are approaching the holy grail of 3D, which is photorealism?
I'm very careful about saying that.
Okay.
I'm just going to be very careful about saying that, because there are times where you absolutely need to do things in the traditional VFX way, and you just got to do that. But this is for all of those situations where capturing reality is either difficult or out of reach for you, and the technical ability you tend to need to be able to create photorealistic computer graphics is quite high, and the level of understanding you need is quite high, where our tool allows you to very quickly represent pieces of reality and some things that aren't real, which I'll get into in a second, to be able to do something with it. Like the thing I've shown with Culver Studios there. If you didn't know how to do computer graphics and you went there and you may have thought to yourself, oh, I really want to use this for a VFX shot, but I can't spend the time doing this. So it's an idea you throw away. I personally don't like that. I've been around a lot of creatives where just because of budget constraints, they've had to say, I'd love to, but I can't because we can't afford to do it. Where if really all you needed to do was a pickup shot of some people talking in front of this place, but you couldn't go back to film there because it's not possible to do that, or you can't get the people there, like there's a multitude of reasons you might not, that you're able to do those things. With a much lower bar of entry. Like you don't need senior technical artists to be able to have the front of Culver Studios. You don't need senior technical artists to have a piece of London. You need competent capture technicians and someone who has some competency in Unreal, like a junior mid-level would do great with this and would bring a lot of their own things to it as well, because you can augment these things with extra static meshes as well. We're not limited to only the radiance field, and or I should really say Gaussian splats that we generate.
Okay, do you have any other example which is like daylight or something like this for us, so we can just see how it mixes with meshes and
Yep, if you give me one quick second.
Of course, no problem.
Okay, so here, I'm just going to hide some stuff again, and let's give me.
What is this object?
So I'm not entirely sure where this is. This was something I was given by some folk inside of the company. But it's a Sphinx statue in front of some kind of building. I wish I could tell you where it was, but I'm a bit unsure. It's actually a sample asset we give for free with the account that you build on Volinga anyway. So if you make an account on Volinga, you'd be able to use this asset yourself too. And you can see here, this is like a daylight overcast day that this was captured. Most of it was captured from these angles that I'm moving around here. You can kind of see here, they didn't get very close to this object, but there's a small like ballerina statue inside of this glass tube, and yeah, then now I'm very far from the capture, so things start to kind of fall apart a little. But you see that there is a sense of transparency through this, and if there were refractions, we'd have those too, and we have the reflections of the world behind our camera view here. But something I'm then able to do with a scene like this is I can take the lights down so that it's black and do a day to night conversion on it.
Nice. And this feature is also available on the free account.
This particular feature right now is unreleased, but yes, you would have this ability with the Unreal Connector plugin when we do release it. We're looking at doing that in a couple of weeks. But we don't have a solid release date for this version yet, but this relighting ability will be there very, very soon.
So you can actually, shoot an object during the one light conditions or possibly overcast day, and then recreate the light on this object completely.
Yeah, but I just want to quickly say that I talk about it in terms currently of additive lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So the light only gets added.
Mm-hmm.
If you see here, maybe that was not a good one to pick. 1 second. Here. So this light that I'm shining on the Sphinx here, if I get closer to the Sphinx, you'll see a couple of things that you would expect but don't happen currently. Is there's no self shadowing at the moment, but we're working on that. It's a very difficult problem to solve. And there's no, we don't affect the actual radiance of these objects, which for everyone here who doesn't know what that means, don't worry about it. For people who work with materials, you will understand what that means. And if you have more questions, please reach out afterwards, because that is a very complex problem to solve. But,
so you won't see a shadow of the Sphinx if you put the light, for example, from the left side. You won't see the shadow of the Sphinx on this big door on the right. Yes,
that's correct. However, if I get this cube here, this is only in the case of radiance fields casting shadows on themselves. Static meshes in Unreal, as you can see here, do cast shadows. So if I put this cube in front of one of these Sphinx lights, you'll see that we will then.
So and Sam, this is theoretically, this is all is like, it's not magic. Yes, it's like within the free account on Volinga plus free account on Epic.
Yes.
So like, what would you say? Like how long you have to learn to reach this level of moving this cube around and relighting this kind of object?
Well, as long as if you're comfortable moving around Unreal, you would get going with this immediately. This would feel no different to working with any other scene, just with a couple of the restrictions that I've mentioned that won't be there forever. If you aren't familiar with Unreal, there's the I can't remember the name of it right now. It used to be the developer network, and it is now the learning community. Sorry, I do remember, where they have some great quick start guides for getting started with Unreal in just simple things like scene management. And if you're new to Unreal and you're a little bit scared of all the buttons and all the panels and everything, please take it from me, from having worked there and worked on some of that documentation. Don't be. There's a lot of places in Unreal you don't need to go for the kinds of things that you might want to do with a scene like this. You would be able to learn how to use enough of Unreal in an afternoon, and you would be happy to move around quite comfortably inside of this viewport.
Can we use Volinga with green screen?
You can. That's not really a limit on our side. That depends on what software you're using. So if you've we call this simulcam in film a lot, but if anyone here is familiar with that process, if you've used a thing like an Ultimate, or you have a way of doing live chroma key to remove green screen, and you can track your camera so that you know where your camera is, you can use Unreal to quite easily put these in the background. And it's a thing that I talk to a lot of customers about. And if you keep an eye on our website over the next few months, we're adding something called the Volinga Academy, where it's just a bunch of project-based tutorials to teach you how to do those kinds of things, where we don't necessarily only talk about how the software works, but I want to teach people through projects. I want to shoot a green screen video for YouTube, and I want to put an environment behind myself. How do I do that? And so a single page where you can go through the steps of creating your own envol, pulling it into something like Unreal, using something like OBS, a webcam, and a green screen in your room, and knocking out the chroma key so that you can now have a version of this place behind you as a virtual background.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to discuss with you, I've seen recently someone who is doing photogrammetry from a footage from Sora. He has taken the video. I think, like, let me just look at it. So like, wow, how I'm not prepared with this. Yes, but like he has taken the video from Sora with the lighthouse and done photogrammetry with this. So like kind of reverse engineering process. So like actually doing photogrammetry from the AI generated video. So what is, I think, reverse of what you're doing, because you are grabbing from nature and training the network, and this was like from a trained network generating a video and then changing it into a 3D object. Yes, so like, or not exactly reverse, but part of this is reverse. Yes, what do you think? Like, what do you think? Because Sora is like something what is like we all talk about, everyone is expecting what is going to be. What is your thought behind it? What is Sora? Is it a 3D program?
This is a very tricky thing to get into because of I can't talk exactly to how Sora works because OpenAI haven't shown us how it works. What I can say is the way that would have worked for creating the Radiance field is just that Sora is so capable of creating stable images frame to frame, given a prompt, that if you try to do a thing called structure from motion, which is how we're recreating objects from 2D images, then you're able to recreate something because the object hasn't changed too much between all of those images, that you can infer a camera path and you can start to infer a place from it. But internally, I'm not too sure how Sora understands a world. That like OpenAI would have to tell us that.
Janku, jakbyś mógł przełączyć na mój ekran, okay, so that's the 3D object. You know, this is if you see, that's a 3D. We all know this video of the lighthouse, yes, or at least you know, this is very well-known video, yes. And if you see, it's like a full 3D object created from this video only, yes. So like you walked with your iPhone in front of the studio gate, it looks like it's a 3D program, yes.
Mm-hmm. No, and like I said, because it's sort of so capable at creating stable images between each frame, that's why it's able to generate something like this. But you can see towards this side here, that's why some of the rock face gets a little bit strange looking, because I know more closer to the camera. So the rocks kind of bend across the front of this place. And I just know from being an environment artist, rocks do not do that in real life. They just don't.
I know it from traveling to the seaside. They don't do that.
But it's very interesting for being able to understand something that it generates in a 3D space, so that maybe if you're trying to find other ideas, that's an interesting way to find ideas. I just like to be a bit careful about the data those things are trained on. Like, so just to be clear about how Vilinga works is we don't have a very large model that we train your stuff on. Whenever you feed images into the model, they're the only images being used, and we don't keep those.
Okay.
So the data stays as your own.
Mm-hmm. So there is no problem with copyrights, and you actually own your own model, on your own object, and you're really sure about it that this is yours.
Yeah, and that's part of why I said if you're part of a larger outfit looking at doing something and you're worried about things like data security and privacy, to talk to us, because one of our design principles in the software that we've made is that if you need to run it on premises, locked down and air gapped from the rest of the world, then you should be allowed to do that and able to do that. We are not interested in taking your data. We are interested in building very good software to help you make films better.
No, Marcin is writing, rocks don't do that, but you should eat at least one a day. I don't know if you remember, you know, like the
Bard.
Google results, yes, of course, and add the glue to the pizza, yes, non-toxic glue. All right, so like, do you plan something like prompting in Volinga, so you could look like and say, okay, let's change the light, all right, so like let's add something?
Not necessarily yet. We're more focused on getting very accurate reconstructions of places. So prompting might be something we consider in the future as being part of maybe other tools, or maybe there is something that we'd like to do ourselves. But right now the focus is on accuracy and precision. So like some of our current focuses are things like proper scale referencing, so that when you build a very large area, you don't get scale drift as you get further away from your origin.
Okay, now I got you. I can ask you the question, like, what is very large area? Because now you have something in mind, yes?
Oh, well, it's more to do with, like, again, that it depends how you captured something. So if I captured a lot in a central area and very few images further away from this point, and this could be a living room, or it could be a whole city street. But if I'm focused here and I have fewer images out towards the edges, it becomes more difficult for the model and the camera alignment to understand exactly what those distances were. So it's not about the absolute scale of a place. It's making sure that all objects within a trained model have correct scale. So if I have a meter cube near and I have a meter cube really far away, if I go up to this one that's really far away and I didn't capture very much of,
I can see some. I'm not going to win with you, yes? Okay, guys, so like, thank you very much for this. Our guest was Sam Munro from Volinga, which is training 3D. How do you say it? How would you summarize it? Like, what you're actually doing in one sentence?
I was going to say something else and I can't say that. We're helping you archive reality. That's maybe the way I'd say it. Archiving reality for media and entertainment.
AI networks, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, and thank you very much, Sam. As the last video, what we're gonna see as the last video?
So this is a video from one of our key capture company partners, Prism, in partnership with Clear Angle Studios. They're a high-end company that deliver digital assets, environments, humans, objects, props, whatever you'd like for films. If you've watched a film in the past 10 years, you've seen a bunch of their work. They're all over the place, but they're quite invisible. And they've been working with us to use their expertise in capture to come up with some artistic things and some very accurate, very cool models that they've done. So this video has got some flowers, it's got some fashion models, and then it's got some artistic product shots that they've all done in camera. So I would invite everyone to have a look at this.
Does it mean I can scan this kind of object that we're going to see with my iPhone?
You can, but not the way Prism can do it. Prism have a whole system for doing this, and it's very, very cool. If you're interested, please go look up those guys.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next webinar we're planning on the 19th, I think. Let me see it. We're planning on the 19th. So 19 będzie kolejny webinar o godzinie 7 w tym momencie jest zaplanowany i zrobimy tam mały recap z ostatnich festiwali, z tego, co widziałem w Cannes i z jakichś bieżących rzeczy i tak samo jeśli chcecie zadać jakieś pytania jeszcze do Samowi, to też postaramy się wrócić do tematu Volingi. Dzięki wielkie za dzisiaj, dzięki, że byliście z nami. Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate your time. Like future.
Future.
What else can I say? Okay.
It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be crazy. Let's see the video at the end. Thanks. Bye bye.
W którym wszyscy mówią o AI, a giganci technologiczni codziennie walczą ze sobą o dominację w branży, w końcu wyrasta przestrzeń, gdzie w przyjaznych i bezpiecznych warunkach każdy może nauczyć się kluczowej kompetencji przyszłości. Współpracy w formule człowiek plus sztuczna inteligencja.
Jesteśmy Campus AI i tworzymy pierwszą na świecie platformę generatywną, powstającą dzięki współpracy największej społeczności entuzjastów AI w Polsce i przy wykorzystaniu sztucznej inteligencji.
Jeżeli etyczne wdrażanie sztucznej inteligencji jest dla Ciebie ważne i chcesz rozwijać się poprzez praktykę, włącz się w budowę wirtualnej dzielnicy łączącej lokalny ekosystem innowacji i kreuj przyszłość.
Okay, guys, now it's going to be this video. Small error. Campus AI is super cool, and for sure, but this is seen at the beginning. Now we're like